You ever scroll through Facebook and feel like you're watching someone else's family live your life? There they were again, my cousins, lined up like a Gap ad, all holding up their diplomas from some overpriced liberal arts school, with captions like, "Our future lawyer! So proud! Jared, you're gonna change the world one algorithm at a time! Olivia's master's in psychology, brains and beauty!" You'd think they cured cancer and negotiated world peace in the same semester. Every post came with a backdrop: golden sunlight, fancy wine, helium balloons. Their parents were tagged, and their old teachers commented. Aunt Deb wrote, "Proud Auntie," like she'd personally trained Olivia since birth. Meanwhile, I had just finished trade school. HVAC certified. Full-time offer already signed with a local company. First in our family to land a paying job straight out of graduation, and what did I get? Not even a congrats balloon from the dollar store. My mom's reaction was a polite grunt over her morning coffee. "So, what exactly do you do now? Like clean vents?" And my dad, still in his boxers, added, "Maybe now you can finally fix the furnace. It's been sounding like a raccoon stuck in it again." No card. No dinner. No photo. Just a casual reminder that blue collar in my family apparently meant no caption necessary. It was weird. I wasn't mad, not at first. I'd always known Olivia was the golden child. Jared was the golden backup. And I was the wrench-holding third cousin in the background of their holiday photos, slightly blurry and always holding a plate. But this felt different. Because I had done something real. Tangible. I spent 2 years waking up at 5 a.m., studying until midnight, working side jobs just to pay tuition and gas. I passed my licensing exam with a 93. And when the instructor handed me that certificate, I felt more proud than I ever had in my life. I posted a photo, nothing fancy, just me holding my HVAC cert outside the classroom, sweat on my neck and grease still under my nails. Got 11 likes. Mostly coworkers and one guy from high school who I think thought it was a plumbing license. Nobody in my family commented. Not one. It was like I'd graduated into a void. Meanwhile, Jared had a professional photo shoot for finishing a 2-year business degree where his biggest struggle was choosing between iced or hot oat milk lattes during finals. That was the moment. The quiet, invisible shift. I stopped sharing. Stopped telling them anything. What was the point? They made it clear, unless you've got a campus, a cap, or a caption ready. First job at Deloitte. Announcement: your story isn't worth retelling. So I kept working. Joined a legit HVAC company the following Monday. Ray, my new boss, was a walking steel-toe boot of a man with a mustache so intense it could knock over a small dog. Day 1, he clapped me on the back and said, "You're the only new hire who didn't show up late or ask for a lunch break before orientation. I like you already." Ray called me kiddo and told me he was proud when I fixed a broken unit solo on my second week. Ray, who knew me for 13 days, gave me more validation than my whole family had in 23 years. So yeah? I stopped updating the group chat. I stopped trying to make them see me. I didn't need their captions. I'd build something real. Something they couldn't screenshot. I was standing in line at the gas station, holding a lukewarm burrito and 2 cans of Monster, when I saw the listing. City foreclosure auction, duplex property, fixer-upper, starting bid, $28,000. At first I laughed. 28 grand? That wouldn't even get you a bike rack in Jared's neighborhood. But something about the flyer stuck with me. It was printed on cheap paper, the font was slightly crooked, and someone had circled it in red ink like it was a Craigslist killer deal. I ripped it off the board without even meaning to. That night, I sat on my mattress on the floor set up, chewing on a peanut butter sandwich and Googling the place. It looked bad. Not horror movie bad, but definitely. This place has seen things. Bad. The kitchen cabinets were barely hanging on. One room had a mural of what looked like a sad raccoon spray painted on the wall, and the bathroom had a toilet that might have predated plumbing itself. But 2 units. Good bones. Solid location. And the kicker? Up-and-coming neighborhood. You know, the kind where hipsters show up with espresso bikes, and suddenly rent triples. And somehow, I had the money. Thanks to working full-time since I graduated, skipping vacations, birthdays, and every family gathering that didn't involve food, I had saved just over $39,000. No debt. No loans. I drove a '97 Corolla with one hubcap and a heater that coughed like it smoked 2 packs a day, but I was finally in a position to do something big. Something they never expected from the non-college one. The idea hit me hard and fast: buy the property. Quietly. No announcements. No approval seeking. Just action. I didn't even tell Ray, and Ray's the kind of guy who buys you beef jerky when you look sad. I figured the fewer people who knew, the less pressure I'd feel to explain myself if I failed. And let's be real, if I had told my family I was thinking of buying a property at a foreclosure auction, they'd say something like, "Oh, that's ambitious," which is family code for, "We'll pretend we're not betting against you." So I registered for the auction. Got a letter from my bank, ironed my one decent shirt using a pot of hot water, and borrowed a funeral blazer from my buddy Wes, who's built like a slightly smaller refrigerator. The sleeves ended above my wrists, and it smelled like mothballs and existential dread, but hey, it looked financial. The auction was held at the county courthouse, and let me tell you, if awkward silence and aggressive eye contact had a baby, it would be that room. Rows of older guys in dress shoes that cost more than my first paycheck. Binders. Notepads. People saying things like cap rate and turnkey potential. And then there was me, hoodie under the blazer, hair slightly too long, coffee-stained folder full of hope. I kept my head down, sat near the back, and tried not to sweat through my undershirt. Then I heard it. "Mom, just stay close to me, okay? We want to go to at least $70,000, but don't raise your hand unless I nod." I froze mid-sip of my gas station coffee. That voice was painfully familiar. I turned my head, slowly, like I was in a horror movie, and there they were. 3 rows ahead, slightly to the left. Aunt Deb. Uncle Craig. And, of course, Jared. Jared, in his Patagonia vest, no-show socks, and the kind of expression that said, "I've never lost a group project in my life." He was holding a folder marked Investment Opportunity Number 2, like it was a pitch deck for Shark Tank. I nearly dropped my coffee. They were bidding on my duplex. Apparently Jared's post-grad plan was to become a passive-income landlord. You know, without actually knowing how drywall works. "Well, if no one serious shows up, we've got this," he whispered, sipping on some kind of cold brew that looked smug. My eye twitched. I looked down at my folder. My budget. My dream. My plan. This wasn't just personal anymore. This was war. The auctioneer looked like he moonlighted as a rodeo announcer. He stepped up to the mic with a voice that could wake the dead and shouted, "Lot 114, 2-unit duplex, foreclosed, as is, minimum bid, 28,000. Let's start." 28. Jared blurted immediately, with the smugness of someone who never lost a game of Monopoly. I casually raised my paddle. 30. Aunt Deb's head turned like a cat who just heard a treat bag crinkle. She stared at me, confused. Probably wondering why a hoodie-wearing extra from a Mountain Dew commercial was bidding on her son's investment. 35. Jared said louder. 37. I replied. Calm. Neutral. Like I wasn't halfway vibrating with adrenaline under that borrowed funeral blazer. 40. He said louder still. 42. The auctioneer looked mildly entertained. 42,000. Do I hear 44? Aunt Deb leaned in to whisper. Who is that? I don't know. Some guy, Jared said. Probably a contractor. Is he bidding against us? Clearly, Mom. Deb narrowed her eyes like she was trying to zoom in with her face. 44. Jared barked. I raised my paddle again. 46. The auctioneer nodded. 46. Do I hear 48? 48. Jared grumbled, now visibly irritated. 50. I could see Jared's composure starting to crack like drywall during a heatwave. He adjusted his vest. 55. I didn't even blink. 58. That earned a full head turn from Aunt Deb. She stared at me like I'd grown a second head. I gave her a polite smile, the kind you reserve for strangers you're about to outmaneuver. 60. Jared shot out. 63. Uncle Craig muttered something to him. Jared shook his head like he had a degree in outbidding peasants. 66. I raised my paddle one more time. 69. A small ripple of chuckles from the crowd. Someone behind me whispered, "Nice." Jared wasn't laughing. 70, he said too fast. That was it. His cap. I could feel it. I waited a beat, one full second, then raised my paddle and said, 72. The room shifted. You know when a room gets quiet, but not in a polite way, more like a someone just lost something valuable kind of way? That. The auctioneer raised an eyebrow, clearly enjoying himself. 72,000. Going once, going twice. Jared hesitated. You could see the panic setting in behind his eyes. He glanced at his parents. Deb looked horrified. Craig looked like he wished he'd stayed home and watched golf. The gavel hit. Sold! And just like that, I owned the duplex. For a second, no one moved. Then the polite post-auction chatter began. Binders were zipped. Paddles tucked away. Jared sat in stunned silence like someone had just unplugged his trust fund. I walked past their row casually, pretending not to notice them. Then, right as I passed, I said, "Morning, Aunt Deb." Jared. "Beautiful day for property ownership, isn't it?" Their faces. I wish I could have taken a photo. "Derek?" Deb gasped, her mouth halfway open like she was buffering. "Yup," I said, lifting the paperwork packet. "Turns out trade school pays off after all." Jared blinked like he was rebooting. You were bidding against me?" "Not against you," I said. "Just for me." Then I walked out like I was in a slow-motion scene from an underdog movie. If I had sunglasses, I would have put them on without breaking stride. But I didn't. So I just strutted out with 28-year-old coffee breath and the biggest win of my life. By the time I got home from the auction, my phone was vibrating like it had a nervous condition. First came the group text. Family chat. "Dad, there seems to be a misunderstanding. Let's all talk before making rash decisions." And Deb. "Derek, honey, did you really mean to bid on that property?" Jared. "LMAO, okay, now that we've had our little moment, can we be adults?" I left the chat without saying a word. 30 seconds later, Mom texted individually. "Mom. Sweetheart, why didn't you tell us you were going to an auction? That's not really your thing." "My thing? What, working? Buying something with my own money?" Meanwhile, the same people who couldn't be bothered to like my trade school photo were now suddenly concerned that I had the audacity to own real estate. The next morning, I woke up to a Facebook notification, "You've been tagged in a post." My stomach sank. It was from Cousin Jared. A blurry photo of the duplex with the caption, "Hard to watch dreams get hijacked. Lesson learned, success needs lawyers." Oh. We're doing that now. He didn't tag me directly, coward move, but come on. Everyone knew. Within the hour, I got a DM from Aunt Deb. "We just want what's best for everyone." Jared had plans. "Maybe there's a way you can collaborate?" Collaborate? What's he gonna do, light a eucalyptus candle while I snake clogged drains? The irony? If they just said, "Hey, congrats," or even faked interest in what I was doing for 5 seconds over the last 2 years, I might have offered them something. A conversation. A heads up. A coffee. But now they were flailing. They weren't mad I bought it. They were mad I did it without them. That I didn't ask permission. That I didn't play the part they wrote for me, the quiet cousin who stays in the background and makes things work. Now I was the one with the keys. And they hated that. At lunch that day, I took my food truck tacos to the front of my new duplex and sat on the porch with a lemonade like a retired mobster watching the neighborhood shift. 2 guys walking by slowed down, nodded. One said, "You the new owner?" "Yup." About time someone fixed this place. I smiled. That's the plan. And then, because fate has a sense of humor, a black Jeep pulled up across the street. Guess who climbed out? Jared. In sunglasses, holding a manila folder like he was about to pitch me a tech startup. He crossed the street like he was on Shark Tank. Sat on the bottom step. I just want to talk, he said. I took a bite of taco. You can talk. Doesn't mean I'll care. He chuckled, but it didn't land. Look, man, that was supposed to be mine. I had a business plan. Passive income, maybe a YouTube series. Of you doing what? Watching me install water heaters while you narrate with a ring light? He rolled his eyes. You don't get it. I'm trying to build something. So was I. The difference is I used a wrench. You used hashtags. He looked like he wanted to argue but didn't have the vocabulary to respond without a Wi-Fi signal. Can we at least split it? He asked. I laughed. Really laughed this time. Split what? The mortgage I already qualified for or the furnace I'm personally going to repair next week? He shifted. It's messed up, man. No, I said, finishing my taco. What's messed up is being ignored your whole life and then suddenly being treated like a threat the second you succeed. He stood up, folder still clutched in his hand like a security blanket. You changed. No, I said, standing too. You just never looked closely enough to know who I was in the first place. Then I walked inside and locked the door. Let them figure out what it feels like to be left out. 3 days after our porch showdown, Jared posted a cryptic Instagram story. Sometimes doors close so windows can open. Starting something new. Stay tuned, eyes. It was a boomerang of him sipping matcha in front of a MacBook that clearly wasn't turned on. I didn't reply. But I did take a screenshot. For science. Meanwhile, I got to work on the duplex. The bottom unit was a disaster. Drywall looked like someone had lost a bar fight with a hammer, and the toilet leaned slightly left, like it had opinions. But I wasn't scared. I'd been fixing broken things since I was 15. Air conditioners, cars, expectations, same toolkit, different jobs. Each day after my HVAC shifts, I'd come by, yank out old cabinets, scrub walls, rip up water-damaged flooring. No contractor. No crew. Just me, my beat-up tools, and a playlist that switched between angry rap and 2000s emo like a very confused therapy session. Weekends became workdays. I installed insulation in 90-degree heat, nearly passed out twice, and learned that raccoons will absolutely sass you if you interrupt their attic nap. But every cut, every screw, every sweat-stained shirt was mine. It was the kind of labor that didn't get applause, but man, it meant something. Meanwhile, Jared launched a podcast. I wish I was joking. The Hustle Gospel. Tagline. Where grind meets gratitude. Episode 1. You can't outwork purpose. 12 minutes of him talking about energy alignment and monetizing your mornings. Halfway through he quoted Elon Musk and mispronounced entrepreneur. The kicker? He recorded it from his childhood bedroom, which he still lived in. I got a text from my cousin Marcy that just said, "Dear God, make it stop." I didn't respond. I was too busy scraping moldy caulk out of the upstairs tub. One afternoon, while I was elbow-deep in a plumbing nightmare involving copper pipes and betrayal, I got a knock on the front door. It was Aunt Deb. Wearing pearls. In front of a duplex with a raccoon eviction notice on the window. "Hi, sweetheart," she said like she hadn't just tried to publicly gaslight me out of my own property. I wiped my hands and leaned in the doorway. "You okay?" She smiled too wide. "I brought muffins." She held out a Tupperware container with 6 aggressively beige-looking muffins that could have doubled as construction material. "Thanks," I said flatly. She stepped closer. "I know things have been tense. But Jared's been struggling. This was supposed to be a stepping stone for him." I raised an eyebrow. "And what was it supposed to be for me? A mistake?" She didn't answer. Just smoothed her cardigan and said, "We're family. Maybe there's a way we can all benefit. Let me guess. Jared manages the Airbnb, and I do the renovations for exposure?" She blinked like I slapped her with a zoning permit. Sweetheart, don't be difficult. No, I said. Difficult is being ignored your whole life, then expected to play landlord to someone who thought ductwork was a dating app. She opened her mouth. Closed it. Muffin container trembling slightly in her hands. I'll let you know if I ever need help baking resentment into passive-aggressive carbs, I added. And I shut the door. Not rudely. Just firmly. I put her muffins in the freezer, raccoon bait. By month 2, the top unit was already rented out. Marcus, mid-30s, ex-Navy, remote software engineer, toured the place, tested the water pressure, asked 0 weird questions, and paid 3 months up front. Just like that, I became a landlord with one hell of a first tenant. He even brought me a 6-pack after move-in. Said, here's to fair rent and no surprise inspections. God, I like that man. Meanwhile, the downstairs unit was coming together. I ripped out the creepy floral wallpaper, painted it a clean slate gray, and installed a smart thermostat, mostly because I wanted Jared to see it and weep silently into his podcast mic. Each night after work, I came by to finish something else, patch drywall, retile the bathroom, rehang a door that had been clinging on like a middle manager in denial. I documented it for myself, not social media. My phone was full of before and after pics, some paint-covered selfies, and one blurry photo of me dancing in the empty living room after installing the final light fixture. Then came the call. Aunt Deb. Of course. Hey, sweetheart. She chirped, sugar-coated and suspicious. Just checking in. How's the project? I could practically hear Jared breathing through the speaker. It's going great, I said. Just finished caulking the windows. Oh, that's wonderful. You've always been so handy. I waited. She cleared her throat. So Jared's, transitioning. Exploring new pathways. And he was thinking, maybe he could rent the downstairs unit? Temporarily. I nearly dropped my screwdriver. Oh, sure, I said cheerfully. Double the market rate, since he comes with emotional baggage and a fragile ego. She gasped like I'd slapped her through the phone. Derek! What? I said. That's the family rate. She hung up. But not before mumbling something about how ungrateful this generation is. 2 days later, I got an envelope under my doormat. No stamp. No handwriting. Just a typed lease application from Jared. Under rental history, he wrote. Airbnb guests for 5 stars. I laughed. Then framed it. Next to my trade school certificate. Meanwhile, the family group chat fell into radio silence. No more. Olivia's in Paris. Posts. No. Jared's launching a platform. Updates. Just crickets. Ghost town. Like I had sucked all the air out of their curated success narrative. I wasn't mad. I was amused. Turns out when you don't play the role they cast you in, the struggling cousin, the silent worker bee, they don't know what to do. So they say nothing. They pull back. They regroup. I filled the silence with action. One Saturday, I hosted a little barbecue. Just neighbors. Marcus manned the grill like a seasoned pitmaster. A few folks brought folding chairs, and Bruno, his golden retriever, tried to steal 4 hot dogs and succeeded at 2. An older couple from down the street stopped by, holding a potted plant in an old coffee mug. We heard you bought the place, the woman said. Looks beautiful now. It was such a shame before. Thank you, I said. I'm trying. I meant it. After they left, I stood in the backyard as dusk settled. String lights swayed gently above me. The porch I rebuilt creaked slightly under my boots. From inside I heard the gentle hum of the upstairs AC unit, installed by yours truly. No cheers. No hashtags. Just quiet, steady ownership. I didn't need to post about it. Because finally, I was the post. It had been 5 months since the auction. The duplex was fully renovated. Both units rented. Mortgage covered. Repairs minimal. Renters happy. My savings were rebuilding, and for the first time in my life, I was making money while sleeping, and not in a sketchy way. But the best part? Nobody could take credit for it but me. No team effort speeches. No. We always believed in you. Lies. Just pure, unfiltered effort. Brick by brick. Wiring by wiring. Decision by decision. It was mine. That week, I got an email from my old trade school. Career Day, Alumni Panel Sign Up. My first instinct was to delete it. I didn't do speeches. I didn't do panels. I didn't do microphones unless I was holding drywall compound in the other hand. But something tugged. I remembered sitting in that same cramped auditorium just 3 years ago, sweating through a borrowed button-up, wondering if I'd made a huge mistake choosing HVAC over a real degree. So I said yes. 2 Fridays later, I stood on stage next to 3 other alumni, 1 welder, 1 electrician, 1 heavy equipment operator with forearms like steel pipes. We didn't look fancy. But we looked real. The room was full of juniors and seniors from all over the district, slouching, yawning, side-eyeing like teens do. One kid raised his hand and said, "My dad says trade school's for people who couldn't make it in college. What do you say to that?" The room went still. I paused. Thought about my cousins. My family. Jared's podcast. Olivia's European tour paid for by someone else's credit line. Then I said, "I say your dad probably has an HVAC unit that breaks down twice a year and still calls guys like me to fix it. And I charge him double when he's smug." The room exploded. Even the teachers laughed. But then I got quiet and added, "Look, college works for some people. But if you want to build something with your hands, if you like solving problems people don't even see until they're freezing in their own homes, this is your path. And if no one claps for you at graduation, clap anyway." Later, a few students came up to shake my hand. One girl asked how I saved for my first property. Another asked if I'd really bought it at an auction. Like a movie. I smiled and told them yeah, but I wore a borrowed funeral jacket and ate gas station burritos for a year first. No one makes a movie about that part. That night, I stopped by my parents' place to drop off some old mail. They weren't home, but I saw the latest family newsletter sitting open on the counter, typed by Aunt Deb, of course. Jared is launching a consulting brand focused on digital resilience. Olivia is exploring doctoral options in Italy. Derek is doing well too. I laughed out loud. Doing well too. Like I was a footnote in my own success story. I left the newsletter where it was. But I slid a copy of my lease agreement under it, just for fun. On my way out, I passed a photo on the wall, Jared in his cap and gown, parents beaming. Next to it was an old photo of me at 12, not graduating, not celebrated, just standing in the background at a birthday party, holding someone else's balloons. This time, I didn't feel small. I felt invisible no more. 2 weeks after Career Day, I got an unexpected email. Subject line: Interested buyer for duplex? It was from a local real estate agent. Someone, anonymous, had contacted them, asking if I'd consider selling the duplex for a quick cash deal. The number? Tempting. 6 figures. Clean. Immediate. And for a second, a real second, I imagined it. Selling. Flipping it. Pocketing the profit. Putting a down payment on a house in the hills. Maybe a pickup truck with actual working AC. Maybe finally taking a vacation that didn't involve raccoon nests and asbestos. Then the agent attached the inquiry form. In the interested buyer section, Jared Taylor. With a note. I believe we can make something mutually beneficial. I stared at it for a long moment. He still hadn't let it go. That auction paddle had dropped 5 months ago, and he was still haunted by it. Not because he needed the duplex, but because I had it. He wasn't bidding for a building. He was bidding for the version of me they used to mock, the one who fixed ACs, showed up in a hoodie, and dared to take up space at the same auction table. I didn't respond right away. Instead, I walked out to the porch, sat in my rebuilt Adirondack chair, and watched the sun go down over my street. My tenants were home. Porch lights flickered on one by one. Somewhere, Bruno barked at a squirrel and Marcus laughed through an open window. This was mine. Not just the duplex, the life. The one I built with quiet days, calloused hands, and enough ignored milestones to fill a digital graveyard of unsent graduation announcements. So I replied simply, "Not for sale. Not now. Not ever." Then I deleted the email and went back to patching up the garden bed I'd started in front. Sunflowers, maybe? Something tall and unapologetic. Later that week, I got tagged in a new post, not from family, but from my old trade school. A photo of me on career day, shaking hands with students. The caption read, "Alumni Spotlight, Derek Taylor, HVAC Specialist, Property Owner, Community Builder." No balloons. No caps. No fake proud relatives in the background. Just truth. And the comments? Full of kids asking how I saved. What I studied. If I liked what I did. And I replied to every single one. Because someone should. That weekend, I hosted another neighborhood barbecue. Bigger this time. More chairs, more food, even someone's uncle DJing off his iPad. Marcus grilled, Bruno danced in the sprinkler, and a group of kids played tag around the freshly painted porch. And just as the sun dipped, I stepped inside and grabbed something off the wall. Two things, actually. My trade school certificate. A framed photo of me holding up the auction paddle, sweat-stained shirt and all. I placed them on a new shelf I'd built, crooked, but sturdy. And then I found the old family group photo from years ago, the one where I stood in the back, off-center, holding someone else's balloons. I framed that too. Not to mourn it, but to remember. Because that kid? He built this. No one clapped when he graduated. No one posted when he passed his exam. No one called when he signed his first lease. But they all noticed when he bought the building they wanted. The silence was never the punishment. It was the proof. That when you don't wait for applause, you learn to build your own stage. And mine? Had two tenants, central air, and a porch full of strangers who became something more than family. They became witnesses.